I'm going to give him another intro because I didn't really like how smooth or lack thereof I was the first time around.
Okay.
So joining us now,
perfectionism here.
Joining us now on this Tuesday live stream is former Super Bowl winning Raven Femi Ayambadejo. He was a member and a proud member of the 2000 team. He was an 11-year NFL veteran. He has successfully built multiple businesses, including a career in broadcasting. He's a friend of the show. We love the guy, and we're going to give him another shot. You deserve another shot. What's going on, Femi?
Man, technology is not cooperating at all with me today. So thanks, Bobby. Are we good now? Can we hear each other now?
You sound fantastic.
Oh, man. Yeah. Hey, I apologize because when I was talking, all I could hear was my voice. And I was like, oh, my God, I can't even think straight.
No, you're good. We've both been in that. Hey, during your radio days, you remember that. It literally causes you to not be able to form
just
coherent sentences.
Seizes you up. You know what I mean? So, yeah, here we are. We're good. We're good. We're good to go.
But I'll tee you up once more.
Yeah,
because
go for it.
Folks are interested in hearing a former player's perspective about this time of year. You fit in some vacations, you get in your final training sessions, right? You do the things that need to be done in this final stretch leading up to camp. Rookies report on the 15th, a week later for veterans and everybody. Your thoughts, though, with your analyst hat on in terms of the most pressing things that are on your mind, Raven-centric going in.
You know, I think you and I had a talk earlier this year. I think Sarah was on vacation, actually, and I said the Ravens are probably one of a couple teams that are ready to play a game today. Like they could line up right now and play a game, and I think they would be successful. The beauty of continuity, and you know, I always talk about it, right? You know, I have like my little phrases. You know, you have culture, continuity, communication, coaching, and all these different things. I think the Ravens are in a sweet spot. And what I love is that they've adjusted from the losses that they had a couple years ago with the staff. They have the best player in the NFL. I don't think anyone's going to argue that now. It was blasphemous to say that 2 years ago, but I don't think it is now. Having the best player doesn't mean that you have the outcome that you want at the end of the season, because football is the consummate team sport. It takes everything to come together to win a championship. But as an analyst, I mean, this is the most. And look, guys, let me own it. I wear purple glasses. I wear purple boxers. I wear purple socks. Everyone knows how much purple I wear. I'm not trying to hide that. But analysts, pure objectivity, this is one of the best rosters in the NFL. Top 3, not top 5, not top 10, top 3. And I think it's the best, honestly. Now, if you want to tell me it's Philly, if you want to tell me it's somebody else, okay, I'm willing to hear that. But Nick Wrong, I don't know what Nick Wrong is watching, but Nick Wrong was talking about the Ravens roster a week or two ago as if he was blown away that anybody would have them in the top 5. I'm like, bro, do you do your analyst work like beyond Kansas City? Do you actually look at depth and players and accomplishments before you say blasphemous things? Don't let me get started on Joe Fortenbaugh, right? That's the guy's name, I think, right? I got something for him too. Oh, I got something for him too. But I just think this is a really complete team. And what I love about the Ravens right now, as an analyst, not just as a former Raven and a fan, is that I love that the psychology of the team, the players that they've acquired this offseason, they know what it's about. It is about a championship, and nothing else will suffice. And to have everybody saying the same thing and rowing in the same direction, there's this kind of synergy and confluence of, we've been in the fire, we know what the national narrative is, we know what we're capable of. Now we just got to go out and execute it. And I'm so excited to see what they're going to be able to do as a team. It's really set up, and they have the hardest schedule in the NFL. I don't care what the percentages are on projections. Just use your eyes in your head and look at who they play and when they play them. They have the hardest schedule in the league, and they welcome it. So I'm really excited as an analyst, as a fan, as a Baltimorean living here. Excited to watch a team that I think is really teed up for something amazing. It's going to be a really good year, I think.
Well, Femi, I'm glad I can finally be on here with you. I think the last 2 times I've missed you. So good catching up with you. But I'm going to go ahead and tee you up. Joe Fortenbaugh, I want to hear what you have to say for him. And those that may have missed yesterday, we kind of played a clip. And, you know, I think it's fine to criticize what the Ravens have done in the postseason. I think Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, and everybody would be the first to say they've fallen short of their goals. So it's fine to criticize them in the playoffs, but it just became a level of disrespect when he's like, oh, they're just going to pee down their legs again. It's like, what are we doing here? So what do you have in store for Joe?
Well, I mean, I think that it's a lazy analysis. I think he was on the entertainment side and not the analytics or analysis side. I think what you have to remember is since 2000, who's the most winning team in the NFL? The Baltimore Ravens. Who has won the third most playoff games since 2000 in the NFL? The Baltimore Ravens, 18. The only teams that have won more, I think, are New England and Philadelphia. When you look at Lamar Jackson, he's only missed 7% of his games. Joel Embiid has missed 30% of his games since he's been a professional basketball player. So to make these lazy comparisons to entertain, I don't know who he's trying to entertain, but he's just really kind of irritating and pissing people off. And for me, in regard to his work product, he's a smart guy. He's slick. He's intelligent. He knows how to talk, and I appreciate that. But I think as a former player, as a fan, and somebody who's obviously deeply invested, I think his analysis was quite lazy. And I know that there's a fine line between analytics and entertainment, and he was definitely highly on the entertainment side. But that's not going to bode well for folks that actually know the data. And so for me, I just want him to be held accountable for kind of the blasphemy that he was peddling, right? The silliness that he was peddling. And what I'll say is that we know as an organization that we would love for the Ravens and Lamar to have a ring or two already. But we also know how difficult it is to win a championship in the NFL, especially in this era, right? Especially with the Kansas City Chiefs and what they've accomplished. And obviously with the rise of Philadelphia, who's always been a really solid football team. I mean, they've obviously won 2 Super Bowls in the last 7 years, I think. So it's a difficult road to hoe in regard to the challenges that come with scheduling, divisional play, and teams health-wise, right? So no excuses. We know that the Ravens have had a road and a path that, being the number 1 seed and not taking advantage of it, having Kansas City here and not taking advantage of it, going to Buffalo, outplaying Buffalo. We know what happened in that game. I think it's just a matter of time. I think they're knocking on the door, and I think eventually that door is going to open up for them. But to kind of frame them as this team that is, Lamar's the best regular season quarterback in NFL history. The Ravens are a great regular season team. Well, you've got to play well in the regular season to have a chance in the playoffs, because you don't make the playoffs if you don't play well in the regular season. But the Ravens have taken on all comers. And I think we remember the run in 2023 when they smacked down Detroit. And basically, the 49ers on Christmas Day in San Francisco. I mean, they had some really monumental big wins. I mean, Miami, exactly, right? We can go through the list of teams that were in the top 5 that when they faced the Ravens, they got absolutely obliterated. And so I know that in and of itself does not garner a championship, but you've got to win the big games when you play them to ultimately get to the big game in the postseason and to win that. I think it's all part of a narrative and a cumulative kind of experience that all comes together. And it just hasn't been their time yet. But do I think that they're just a regular season team? Absolutely not. Do I think there's been some unfortunate things that have happened in the playoffs? Absolutely. And they've taken responsibility for that, but it's just more bulletin board material. So I'm excited for this season. I'm excited to see what Joe has to say at the end of this season. Hopefully the Ravens get to the Super Bowl, and, we can kind of, say, told you so.
And Femi, in the midst of all of this, doesn't Lamar seem so darn unbothered? I mean, just a refreshing, rejuvenating kind of press conference, speaking for the first time last week since the Buffalo loss, going after and having his fun on social media, going after folks, pulling out receipts, screenshots, so on and so forth, influencing the front office, whether it was direct or indirect, to go and get Jair Alexander, standing tall for Mark Andrews unprompted in that press conference, building up bait over the last couple of years when he needed it the most. He's just such a core centerpiece and the model face of a franchise that I guess I pull it in that direction to the most notable piece to what I just mentioned in the last week or so, the newest add to the secondary. Your thoughts on Jair Alexander? Is he CB3 in your mind? And should he stay healthy, what kind of impact are you predicting?
Wow. I mean, I think that you'd have to say on paper, the Ravens have the best secondary in the league. I mean, just based on accomplishments, if you're looking at youth, and I know, look, Pro Bowls and all pros, I know, it's about what have you done for me lately? And I know that Jair's had a little bit of an injury issue the last couple of years. I get that. But on paper, you can only make your analysis and your predictions based on what you see going into the season. I think they have 3 number 1 corners right now. I don't think I have to say there's a 1, 2, or 3. I mean, if someone feels the need to say that, I think all 3 have the potential to be number one corners. And we know with Marlon, he really excels in the slot, right? So when they go nickel and dime, he's going to probably be in the slot. And then you look at the draft and you look at Kyle Hamilton, my goodness. You know what I mean? I just feel like they're really set up to have all these pieces on the field that are Swiss Army knives to some degree, right? Like you can line up these guys all over the place. And I still think that, the NFL game is going to be predicated on the passing game and availability, right? And I just think they've added a lot more depth. Who was the other corner? Is it Awuzie? Who was the other corner that they got? Awuzie, right?
Yeah, Awuzie.
Yeah. So, and then you add him to the mix. I mean, he's a solid football player as well. So I just feel like everything is lining up in regard to the mix of youth and veterans. But the truth of the matter is that this is a pretty young secondary. And I think Jair, his goal is to probably get that big contract, right? He came to he didn't have to come to Baltimore. He probably could have got more money somewhere else, but he wants to play with his boy. He understands that the Ravens are going to challenge for a Super Bowl, and then he's going to be on the field and he's going to get a chance at that bigger, longer term deal at the end of this season. So it's just all really aligning, and I'm excited to see how it all fits together. And we know that since week 9, I believe, and you guys can quote me if I'm wrong here, week 9 or 10 of last year, the Ravens had the number 1 defense in the NFL since week 9 or week 10 last year. A lot of people forget week 10. Okay. A lot of people forget about that. They're just going to build on top of that. There's going to be that continuity with the coordinator. There's going to be that continuity with the players that were already on the field playing. I know that Malachi is going to have to learn a little bit. No problem. Jair, he's a consummate pro. I think you can just plug him in and play. Chidobe Awuzie, I think he's going to be able to be plugged and played. So I expect this defense to pick right back up where they left off and be a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top defense in the league. I don't see why they wouldn't be.
So going off of that, maybe a top 5 defense, which would be phenomenal since the offense was number 1 in most categories throughout the year. So you said earlier that you feel like the roster is at least top 3 in the league, maybe higher in your book. I agree with you on the top 3. That being said, is there any position, whether it be kicker, inside linebacker, maybe safety depth, I don't know. Is there any position that you're like, okay, as good as this roster is, when training camp comes around, I'm going to be watching this because they could still fortify it, or we want to see if people develop?
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at inside linebacker, right? I'm going to be looking at who's going to be playing next to Roquan for sure. I know Trenton has all the skills and all the ability. I know they drafted a kid there who I've heard good things about. But I'll be looking at that position. And look, every position on the field matters, right? I'm not trying to minimize a position, but if you're going to be worried about inside linebacker next to an all-pro like Roquan, and you have a kid in Trenton Simpson who I think has all the skills that you want, you're asking me to pick a position, I'm going to be looking at that position. Of course, I'm going to be looking at Malachi, right? He hasn't played an NFL down yet. I'll be looking at him. I'm not overly worried about him, to be honest, just based on everything I've seen and heard. And I'm going to be looking at left guard. I want to know what they're going to do at left guard. I want to know who the starter is going to be at left guard. I've heard about guys getting opportunities, and maybe that hasn't been solidified yet, but I'll be looking at that at training camp. And I feel like, and I don't remember the kid's name right now that they drafted for the kicker position, but
Tyler Loop.
Yes, Tyler Loop. So I heard great. I think you guys had his coach on, didn't you? Bobby, did you have his coach on? You guys had his coach on at one point. He said good things about him. I saw him, and I've heard different things about practices that he's had that have been really good. And I've heard about some inconsistencies as well. Who knows? But you have to have a solid kicker, especially in the AFC North, and especially when it starts to get the weather. We know what's going to happen with the weather. So we're going to be looking at the kicker position. That's going to obviously be a massive thing. And we know that in recent history, when JT was having his issues, those costed us games. There was games that were left on the field that we could have won had a singular kick been made and not missed. We can go back to the Raiders game last year. We can go back to Pittsburgh last year. So those are the 3 positions that I'm going to be looking at. But in regard to the overall roster and make and mold of the roster, man, I'm really excited about the depth and the guys that are going to be on the field.
Just to be clear, we had Arizona's defensive coordinator, Danny Gonzalez, on the program earlier this offseason. He was the special teams coordinator a year ago for Tyler's final year. Tyler nailed it from 60, converted from 62 as a long last year, had a few misses. Danny, I thought, gave us good context, Sarah, in terms of the operation. It was a very new operation from holder and snapper. And so that kind of helped unmuddy the water, if you will. But to Femi's point, reports out of OTAs is that there's a legitimate competition going on here between Tyler, a day 3 pick, and John Hoyland, an undrafted rookie out of Wyoming. So I think for me, it starts there, Fem, just based on how closely contested AFC North games have been and will continue to be. And we haven't even mentioned, like you did, the weather in January. So as much as inside linebacker is intriguing, we just had Teddy Buchanan, who you referenced there a second ago. A day 2. Was he early day 3, Sarah? I think he was a 4th rounder. So he would have been early day 3 out of Cal. And he seemed super businesslike, very well studied, wanted nothing to do with the whole competition question that I tried to get out of him. So yeah, those are the two for me too, Fem, for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah? What are you going to be looking at? Because I want to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, no, it's the exact same list, but the kicker position is at the top of the list just because of what we went through last year with Justin Tucker.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It is because it's do or die, right? It's feast or famine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the Ravens are talented enough across the board at linebacker and offensive line, and you got Lamar back there, and you got all those guys we mentioned. In that secondary that can make up for some early deficiencies if that happens at the middle linebacker spot or the inside linebacker spot, I should say. So yeah, you're right. It's going to be kicker. It's going to be it's probably, if I have to rank the order of importance, it would definitely start with kicker, and from there, I guess what comes next doesn't really matter. I'm not overly concerned about it, but the kicking game is highly underrated, and it's not a problem until it's a problem. You know what I mean?
My hope is that, kind of to what Bobby's point with his coach, when he gave us context, it was about getting like their process and what they do together down. So I'm just hoping that it's like they're all trying to adjust with each other. The long snapper and holding, and it's like, here's how we did it with Justin Tucker, but Tyler Loop has a very specific process, and they say that he like does the same kick almost every time. And so it's like, I'm hoping it's just them gelling. I mean, but that's just an optimistic kind of hope.
Yeah. And then it's also the time of year for tinkering and experimenting, right? With Randy Brown and the special team staff. And then to your point, finding that cohesion. And I'll just say one more thing too, kind of dating back to last year, when maybe this is swept under the rug when you look at the season, but maybe consider the idea of how seeding could have changed had Justin had a successful year. Single-handedly lost that Philadelphia game December 1st. That had a major impact on season.
Yeah. The Philly game is so frustrating because the Ravens were up 10-0 in that game. And I don't think people remember that, and just the way the game, that's the only game that I really felt like we just got out physicaled a bit. I feel like it's certain points in that game. That's the only game that I felt that way. And to be up 10-0 and to kind of have it fall apart the way that it did, I want to get back on that one. I would really love to see Philly at some point. I don't think they're on our schedule during the regular season. So you know what that means.
You want to see them in February?
Yeah, I would. I love what they did to Kansas City. I mean, man, that was destruction. Like nobody saw that coming. You know what I mean? But I want to beat the best. I always envision us as the most physical team in the NFL. That's how I see the Ravens. And I don't think anybody argues with that. It's going to be a punch the clock, roll up your sleeves, bruised and battered game when you play the Ravens. It's always been that way. The team in the division, in my opinion, that lives up to that every time is the Browns. The Browns always show up and they play us physically. And I don't like the Browns, but I just got to give them credit where credit is due. They're one of the teams that I think display physicality. Of course, the Steelers always do. But there's something about the way the Browns and Ravens play that it's always pad popping, knee knocking. Like it's always one of those games. And I feel like Philly kind of plays that way too. When I look at the NFC, I mean, no disrespect to Detroit, but I just feel like they're more of they're more of a fast sprint operation. I don't necessarily see them as overly physical, but they've got guys off the edge that are quick. They've got an amazing running back that can just blow right by you. They've got a precision passing QB. But I don't think of, and I know they want to be tough. I don't look at Detroit as the most physical team in the NFL, but I do look at them as a cohesive, tough group. But when I think of physicality, I think of Baltimore, Philly, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. And I know Cleveland hasn't had the winning results all the time, but they're going to play. They're going to show up and pop you. Like, they're going to be physical. They may not execute the way that they want all the time in regard to taking care of the football and scoring touchdowns and being an efficient offense. But in regard to physicality, I never doubt that the Browns are going to show up and they're going to give you a tough game. You know what I mean? So
split the season series with them a year ago with Jameis Winston under center. Yeah. Kyle Hamilton should have had that pick and probably would have had it 99 times out of 100 to what has sealed that game. But Fem, for time purposes, I'm sure there'll be some, down the road here once training camp gets underway and whatnot. Maybe we can go game by game with you, get your record prediction, so on and so forth. But nonetheless, we appreciate your time, and let us know anything you got going on that you want to plug this summer. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, nothing yet. I got a lot of stuff I'm working on, but I'll save it as we get closer to the season. I ended up selling my ownership in Advanced Sports AI and BetYard. Remember when I had the BetYard application? I ended up selling my ownership in that, but I'm in the process of something that is, let's call it related to, I can't talk about yet, but a lot more fun, a lot more accessible for people. And I can't wait to share that with you guys. And it's going to be sports related, not just NFL related. So that'll be in the future.
Nice.
Always cooking, man. Always cooking. Appreciate you. And I'm sure we'll catch up again at some point this summer.
Yep. Sounds good, guys. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. Good to see you, Sarah. Good to see you.
Later, brother. Femi Ayambadejo, former Super Bowl winning Raven, always kind with his time and never misses. He comes in with energy. He certainly did. He went after Nick wrong within the first couple minutes. He rips Joe Fortenbaugh as we did earlier this week. It's almost as if he's a daily listener, which I think he is.
We know that because he's always he always lets me know when he agrees and disagrees with me, and I feel like I'm like right at 500 here. He said that he hopes Joe is held accountable for his blasphemy.
This guy, man. I absolutely love him. He's awesome. You can go hit him up on X, by the way, Twitter or X at Obafemi30.